There was one thing where I really fucked up. And the thing that hurt the most was in that moment I failed to realize that I made a huge mistake because everybody was like like because listening, speaking, reading, etc. These are all separate skills and they have to be trained separately. The thing people should focus on is getting as much input as they can and then
Hello everybody, this is Kahn from Japan. Today I'm going to interview Julius Sensei. He is also Japanese language teacher and he has over 10,000 followers on his Instagram. And today I'm going to ask him what is the tips to speak Japanese fluent, because he started learning Japanese from scratch. But now his Japanese is perfect and his Japanese, especially for the speaking skill, is almost like a native Japanese speaker. So today I'm gonna ask him what is the tips to speak Japanese fluent and what kind of the method did he use to practice. So I think today's content is worth watching and everybody can learn a lot of things from today's videos. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go. Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Julius, and I'm from Germany. I'm from a small town in the near of Hamburg. I'm also, like, as probably some of you already know, like I also teach Japanese online.
So you also have the 10,000 followers on Instagram.
Yes, as of recently, I
Yeah,
finally managed to get.
congratulations.
Thank you.
So first of all, I would like to ask, so you already passed the JLPT N1 and your Japanese is really fluent. What made you start learning Japanese? So I want to ask you, what was the motivation?
Yeah, so I actually had two reasons for learning Japanese. The first reason is that I was just interested in the pop culture. So I was just like a huge fan of anime. I would watch like Naruto and One Piece all the time. Like these were my favorites. And then it was actually a very funny coincidence because like my hometown has a partnership with a Japanese town, like with Naruto City in the Tokushima prefecture.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so they had like kind of an exchange program.
Mm.
And like when I was in the 11th grade, I got the opportunity to like do a short homestay in Japan, in Naruto. And so like I also got the opportunity to visit a Japanese high school for 5 days. And this was like a very, very fascinating and interesting experience. Like it was the first time for me actually going to Asia. In Germany, it's pretty common that when you graduate from high school, everybody takes like kind of a gap year, like goes to Australia or another countries, traveling around the world, or like is doing some voluntary service. And I wanted to do that. Like even before I went to Japan, I thought about like maybe going to Canada, doing some voluntary services or stuff like that. But then when I got to Japan, I was like, no, I have to go back to Japan. It's such an interesting country. I want to get to know more about this, yeah, a unique country. And so I decided to go back to Japan in 2019. And so I worked at a nursery home for elderly people in the near of Osaka. And so there nobody was able to speak any English. I couldn't speak Japanese, so I had to learn it. And this was basically what started the whole thing. Yeah.
So when you come to Japan, you are almost a kind of a zero beginner.
I took a course
Mm.
at the school here around the corner, but it wasn't really good because like all the people that took the course were like already like 50 or so. And like the pacing of the course was very slow. And so like I went there for like 6 weeks, but I didn't really learn anything. And like when I arrived in Japan, I only knew the three words konnichiwa, sumimasen, and arigato. That's it. Nothing else.
Let me ask you, so what kind of study did you begin with to build your Japanese foundation?
So in the beginning, I literally had no idea what I was supposed to do. So I tried to work with Genki. I just bought a textbook, tried to work with that, but I don't really like working with like these textbooks. And well, what definitely helped was that my working environment was completely in Japanese, not a single word of English. So I was hearing Japanese all the time, like 8 hours per day, every day. And so like I would then pick up here some things here and there, you know? But then when I returned back home, I watched like Naruto completely in Japanese. I didn't really understood anything. But like since I already knew what was happening story-wise, I was just focusing on the words, and then when I catch the word, I was like, oh yeah, I understand what the word meant and so on. And so yeah, I just randomly tried to like learn vocabulary from like some random internet sites. And then like when I was like 6 months in my studies. Like I found a YouTube channel, it's called Matt versus Japan. I think many people know about him. And like he talked about like, yeah, you have to immerse yourself a lot and so on. And at that point I was like, okay, fuck it. I don't have anything to lose. And I would just binge watch Japanese television all the time. Like when I came back from work, I would just watch television all the time. I would watch anime without any English subtitles, without any help. And while I was doing that, every time I came across an unknown word, I would like write it down, look it up, create like flashcards with it. And yeah, I just tried to, like the things I'm already doing in German and English in my daily life, I just try to like do in Japanese now. Or when
Mm-mm-mm.
I wanted to cook something, I looked up a Japanese recipe, not in English. You know,
Mm.
I just tried to exchange that.
Basically, you learn from the real life Japanese, like watching
Yeah.
anime or talking with the Japanese native speakers. But you also passed the exam, the JLPT N1. I think it's really
Mhm.
hard to pass the JLPT N1 with that kind of even though just watching Naruto, you cannot I think pass
No,
the JLPT
no,
N1, right?
that's not
So
possible. No,
so
no.
for the first time you took the JLPT exam, which level did you take?
The first and only time I took the JLPT was the JLPT N1. And the reason, like, I wasn't really particularly interested in taking the JLPT first. Like,
Mm.
when I came to Japan, like, no, I didn't have the goal to pass the JLPT. But then, because, like, at the university where I'm currently enrolled in, we have also, like, a partnership program so that we also, like, have the opportunity to go to Japan for 1 year studying abroad. And, like, normally, for most of the students, they will take, like, Japanese classes made for like learners. But I was really interested in like taking normal economics lectures in Japanese. And for this, I had to take the JLPT. So that was my motivation for taking it. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So at that time, what kind of textbook did you use?
I didn't use a textbook at all. What I did, like, because I was watching lots of anime and like, for example, pl let's plays of video games, etc. And I was like, watching stuff in all kinds of like politics related, history related, and I would learn all the words through these videos. And so I already had a very big vocabulary foundation
Mm.
because I was just like immersing with different kinds of genres over the time. And I also tried to read a lot of stuff. Like I read history books and so on, and this definitely helped.
Mm.
Because like the JLPT N1, like it will ask you like most of the grammar points, vocabularies you have to know in order to pass the JLPT is like what you will find in, for example, science,
Mm.
literature or stuff like that, you know?
Mm.
And so I didn't really use a textbook, but like there are awesome online websites, for example, JLPT Sensei, that
Mm.
present you with all like different grammar points and explanations. And I would just like go through them, create flashcards with them, review them, and so on. And so at that time, I didn't really watch much anime, but for example, I tried to watch talk shows about politics or stuff like that. You know, this definitely helped as well.
Really? That's amazing. I never had that kind of the study method.
Yeah, yeah, it's not so common, I would say.
So
Unconventional.
as you said, for the first time, only you can speak is konnichiwa, arigato, something like that. So I think for the first time, you may have the difficulty to, communicate with the Japanese native speaker. So how did you overcome?
So in my case, I was in an environment where I had to speak Japanese. There was no way around it.
Mm.
And in my case, I had very, very nice colleagues at my work. They really tried to support me in every way possible. And what they did was they came to me and like, okay, like at the end of every work day, because like I was working in a daycare facility, so they kind of they will pick up the seniors, bring them to the facility, and afterwards they bring them back home. You know, they send them back home. And directly before that, there was like a time slot of like 5 to 10 minutes. And during that time slot, they said to me, okay, you just now go in front of everyone and you just speak to them.
Mm, 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 mm.
And I had to do that every single day. I
Wow.
had to come up with a topic for 5 minutes
Mm.
that I can present to the elders. And if you do that every day for 1 year, you have no fear of talking in front of people. Like I was forced to output in that regard.
I think your how to say the learning method is a little bit special. So,
Mhm.
what was the most difficulty that you face learning Japanese? Is it the kanji or vocabulary or like a speech style?
Yeah. So for me, kanji was never the problem because
Mm,
I see kanji as kind of an art. I just think the characters look cool and I had fun
mm,
learning them. Mm, Probably something I was struggling with is like lack of orientation. So when I first started Japanese, I had no idea what I should focus on. I was completely overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Like it took me a long time to figure out, okay, what what are the things that I should prioritize, what should I focus on first, and so on. Well, this was like the overall problem, and well, something that is really difficult, but also fascinating at the same time is, for example, like honorific language, like Keigo, Sonkeigo, Kentogo, and so on. This is like this was also something that really took a long time to figure out.
If you teach Japanese to
Hmm.
the beginners, he
Yeah.
also know like just a konnichiwa or konbanwa or something like that.
Hmm.
If he has kind of the goal to speak Japanese in 1 year fluently, so how do you guide
Yeah.
him to
Hmm.
speak Japanese fluently?
So, as in every language,
Mm,
there are words we use often and words we don't use at all.
mm,
And
mm,
so it would make sense to focus on the most common words first. And like luckily, we're living in the age of the internet, and so there are like various lists available online where you have like really all the most common words in Japanese, and like every word has like you have like sound, you have audio with them, you have example sentences, etc. And what say them is basically it's like kind of a mundane task, but you have to go through the list
mm,
and work yourself through this list. It's important. Well, first of all, it's important to know a lot of different words because otherwise you won't be able to
mm,
string up any sentences. So this is something I focus on first, and then also like try to that you could use like online apps like HelloTalk or Tandem.
mm,
Like there are definitely ways how you can do that, but like the thing people should focus on is getting as much input as they can. And then when you get a lot of input, then also just try outputting a
mm,
lot because it's like these are kind of like because listening, speaking, reading, etc. These are all separate skills and they have to be trained separately.
mm, mm.
You have to practice all of that.
So for you, how long does it take to have the confidence to speak Japanese fluently?
It depends a little bit what your definition of fluency is.
Mm,
Like after this 1 year where I was working in a Japanese environment, I had to do speeches every day.
mm,
After the 1 year ended, I would say I was maybe around N3 level. Like
mm,
I could talk about like Japanese people or like what I did, about my hobbies, what I like to do, etc. Obviously, when the conversation would revolve around politics or so, I was completely lost. I had no idea. I mean, like people would have been able to understand me.
mm,
Like
mm,
obviously I did grammatical mistakes here and there.
mm,
Maybe my pronunciation wasn't on point all the time. But I mean I could get my point along if it weren't about topics like like about specialized topics like politics or so.
mm, mm.
But then I would say maybe after 2 or 3 years, I was at the point where I could understand 90% of everything I heard. And I could basically, yeah, I could react without really thinking about anything too much.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's not like one point where you're just like, okay, now I'm confident. It's a steady progress.
So now I think you may speak Japanese so fluently, like a native Japanese speaker. So, but do you any kind of anything that you are not satisfied with about the Japanese language skill of you?
It's right now one thing I'm really focusing on is like the pitch accent, the intonation.
Mm,
This
mm,
is something I'm really studying at the moment.
mm,
But yeah, but also like when I talk with people, I have basically no problem anymore. But like when I have to talk about topics I'm not really used to talking about. Like for example, if I now have to talk about art or music or stuff like that, like I don't really know all like the special terminology and stuff like that. If yeah, in these cases I may look for words or maybe have sometimes like troubles to articulate myself 100% correctly.
mm.
Um, and this is basically something I still have to work on. Yeah.
So to encourage beginners levels, so could you share with them? Do you have any kind of the embarrassing moment?
There was one thing where I really fucked up. Yeah. Because I was studying, I was in Shimonoseki,
Mm,
which is like pretty much in the south.
mm,
And like it's the most southern point of like Honshu, the main island.
mm,
And like when you want to get to Kyushu, you have to cross a bridge.
mm,
Kamon Kaikyo is what you would call it in Japanese. And like when I was there, it had its 50th anniversary. And so there were all like these special TV programs about it. And like one of the classes I took, the professor, he was like involved with all of this stuff. And like he appeared in a television show, in a t TV show. And like in our class, he asked if there are like some volunteers who want to like participate in the backstage area. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And yeah, I participated. Like I was like moving around objects. I helped with like cleaning up everything and so on. And at the end of the program, at the end of the TV show, like when the photo shooting was over, when the shooting was over, he wanted to hear what I thought about the whole thing. What do you thought about today's day? And what I wanted to say was like, yeah, I would have never imagined to be able to participate in such a thing when before coming here, you
Mm.
know? And like in Japanese for things like this, you could say your soul guy
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in my mind, the word kitai hazure popped up. And I was like standing in front of all the people
Yeah.
and I was asked for my opinion. I said, まあ、期待外れでしたね. Which basically means it was disappointment, you know? And the thing that hurt the most was in that moment I failed to realize that I made a huge mistake because everybody was like, like they tried to I think they were deeply like, what the fuck did he just say, you know? And when I returned home, it just came to my mind, wait, does it actually make sense to say Kitayazure in this situation? I looked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my God.
Even the Julius Sensei.
Yeah, you know, like, yeah, they are always like, yeah, you will never be perfect.
So this is the last question. Please answer in Japanese. So
Okay.
to those who wants to learn Japanese and those who started learning Japanese, do you have any message to them?
まずは他人と比較しないでください。私の話をすると、私が日本語を勉強し始めて1年目の時は、普通に仕事して家に帰って、で、普通にテレビ見てたんですよ。で、なんか仕事とか家族とかそういうなんか責任が必要なこと全くなくて、なんで、結構、費やせる時間たくさんあったんですよ。
うん
でも、それは私の場合だけであって、他の人あには、それほど時間の余裕はないっていうのも事実です。
うん。
なんで、他の人と比較しないで、
うん
唯一比較対象とするべきなのが自分自身のみ。
うん。
はい。で、それと、言語学習っていうのは、めちゃくちゃ時間がかかります。
うん。
なんで、あ、2年間以内に JLPT 取らなきゃとか、焦らないで、ゆっくり自分のペースで進んでいってください。
うん。
言語学習っていうのは一生終わらない、
うん。
プロセスなんですよ。
うん。
なんで、そこはぜひ楽しくやっていきましょう。
ジュリーさん、素晴らしいです。言ってることも素晴らしいですし、あの、
うん、
私も日本語の先生なんでわかるんですけど、グラマ
うん、
ーとか、その言葉の使い方、言葉
うん。
の選び方がもうパーフェクトなネイティブでした。びっ
いやいや、
くりです。す
そういうことね。
ごいです。いや私の会った外国人の中で本当に一番うまい、日本語を喋る外国人
い
に
や、
します、
そんなこと。
本当に。
ありがとうございます。
いいです。ありがとうございます。じゃあ。